You think the blue whale is the heaviest animal on Earth. You're right. You think the mosasaur's size is terrifying enough. Also true. But in front of this monster, they are just little babies. Listen to this sound from 40 million years ago. In 2023, a fossil rendered textbooks completely obsolete. This monster weighs 340 tons. That is nearly twice the weight of a blue whale. It's 10 times the weight of a mosasaur. But what's even more ridiculous isn't its weight. It's its body structure which completely subverts our knowledge. After seeing the fossil, paleontologists only said one thing. This thing completely exceeds all our imagination of cetaceans. It's called Perucetus Colossus. This monster has left paleontologists worldwide speechless. Because this thing simply shouldn't exist. The highest weight estimate is 340 tons. Nearly twice that of a blue whale. But here's the problem. Its skeleton has extreme Prehistoric sclerosis. The density far exceeds that of most marine mammals. The density of the living bones was comparable to engineering concrete. It was not good at long-distance swimming. Yet it relied on extreme physical specialization to move steadily along the prehistoric shallow seabed. It shattered paleontologists' preconceived notions about the evolution of gigantism in whales. Let's first talk about how it was discovered. The process was even more ridiculous than the creature itself. In 2010, Peruvian paleontologist Mario Urbina was wandering around the Ica Desert. Note, it was a desert, not the seaside. He looked down and saw a few dark stones sticking out of the sand. The shapes were odd, but he didn't think much of it. He took a few photos and left. It was those few casual photos that 3 years later made an international team restless. Experts stared at the photos in silence for a long time. They said one thing. These are bones. Just those few words. These aren't stones. Turned an ordinary desert walk into the starting point for rewriting textbooks. So, an international team charged into the Peruvian desert. Under the scorching sun, they used chisels and brushes to dig bit by bit. They dug for a full 13 years. 13 years. You'd think they dug up a complete skeleton, right? Wrong! They eventually only cleared 13 complete thoracic vertebrae, 4 ribs, and 1 complete hip bone. These few parts couldn't even form a complete outline. But these remains had a total weight exceeding 5 tons. An adult African elephant only weighs about 5 tons, meaning these few bone fragments equaled the weight of an entire elephant. So how heavy was this monster when it was alive? The numbers scientists provided were a conservative estimate starting at 85 tons, reaching up to 340 tons. The record for a blue whale is only 190 tons. This thing is almost like 2 blue whales stacked together. But what truly drove scientists crazy wasn't its weight, it was its bones. Modern large baleen whales, in order to adapt to long-distance ocean swimming, evolved a large number of honeycomb-like gaps inside their bones. This reduces body weight, increases buoyancy, and saves energy while swimming. Perucetus Colossus did the exact opposite. The bones were almost solid. The density was absurdly high. To take samples from the bones, the research team brought out an electric drill. On the first attempt, the drill bit snapped. You heard that right. The fossil was harder than the drill. In that moment, everyone was stunned. And this skeletal feature, its body was naturally born for the shallow seabed, born for a benthic lifestyle. The dense bones acted like a natural ballast tank, helping it easily offset the buoyancy of seawater. Without wasting extra energy fighting to stay down, it could stay steadily on the seabed to forage. So here's the question. How did something so heavy and clumsy survive? Scientists have proposed 3 theories, each more chilling than the last. First theory. It lived like a manatee on the shallow seabed, digging for shellfish and mollusks with its mouth. But do the math. How much energy would a body, weighing hundreds of tons, consume every day, relying on munching shells to support 340 tons of body weight? That's not foraging. That's slow starvation. Second theory, it was a scavenger. The oceans 40 million years ago were described by scientists as, in the era of the meat grinder, basilosaurs, megalodons, and ancient sea crocodiles. They were engaged in a frenzied slaughter every day. The seabed was never short of fresh carcasses. Perucetus Colossus might have been the ultimate beneficiary, the one who didn't need to exert effort, just waiting for the fight to end. This path was energy efficient and stable, and with its weight, no one dared to compete with it. The third possibility is the most spine-chilling one. It was a hunter itself. Not the kind that chases after prey, but the kind that stays perfectly still, camouflaged as a reef, waiting for prey to swim into its shadow. Then it would suddenly snap its mouth open, using a massive vacuum suction to swallow the prey whole. Imagine in the darkness of the seabed, a giant reef is moving slowly. You think it's the terrain, but it's actually a mouth. Its close relative, Basilosaurus, was the top killer in the ocean 40 million years ago, with a slender body like an eel and a mouth full of sharp teeth. With one bite, it crushed bone and flesh together. If Perucetus colossus inherited the predatory nature of Basilosaurus, multiplied by its terrifying size, then it would not be a prisoner of the seabed, but the king of the entire ocean who didn't even need to move. But what truly shocked the world of paleontology with this discovery was not how terrifying it was, but that it broke an ironclad rule held for decades. Textbooks told us that the gigantism of whales occurred about 5 million years ago, because at that time, climate change led to an explosion of krill, and whales began to grow larger and larger, eventually evolving into the blue whale. We always thought giant whales were a modern product, but Perucetus colossus just lay there, with a pile of stone-hard bones, coldly saying, "You were wrong. This scale already existed 39 million years ago. The time difference is 34 million years. This number is longer than the entire time the human species has existed." It used its own fossils to prove that whale gigantism was never a one-way street. While the ancestors of modern baleen whales were still small creatures, another branch of prehistoric whales had already reached the pinnacle of weight. Even more unsettling, under the Ica Desert, there might be an entire graveyard of prehistoric giants. The prehistoric marine fossils we have found so far are just the tip of the iceberg of the species diversity that once existed in Earth's history. Perhaps one day, someone walking in the desert again will look down and see a few strange stones, snap a few photos, and then, a few years later, a new paper will tell us, "Sorry, Perucetus wasn't even the largest one in that graveyard." I've been thinking about one question. Science is never a finished book. It's a draft that we think is finished, but is actually being overturned and rewritten every day. What Perucetus colossus taught us wasn't just how terrifying a prehistoric monster was, but it told us that our understanding of this planet might be far less than we think. The land you are standing on right now might have been a deep sea tens of millions of years ago. And the things roaming in that sea, we might not even be able to fully imagine. Next time you walk on the street, you might want to quietly ask in your heart, the ground beneath my feet, whose home was it tens of millions of years ago? There is a creature that scientists studied for nearly 50 years, only to find they had been publishing papers on its butt. Not as a metaphor literally. This thing is called hallucigenia, a Cambrian seabed creature from 500 million years ago. Its body was covered in spikes, with legs as soft as uninflated straws. Its mouth was densely packed with backward-pointing teeth, literally a miniature meat grinder from 500 million years ago. Even more absurdly, its name literally translates to something that only appears in hallucinations. Scientists weren't insulting it. They were truly questioning their lives because of it. The story begins in 1911. That was the year the Burgess Shale in British Columbia, Canada, was excavated. It buried the most chaotic batch of Cambrian fossils. All kinds of bizarre traces of life were piled together, as if the creator had opened an eccentric factory and dumped all the rejected drafts into this rock at once. Hallucigenia was one of them. The first person to see it was the British paleontologist Conway Morris. In 1977, he decided to take a stab at it and draw a reconstruction of this thing that no one could understand. When he finished, the whole world was stunned. The hallucigenia in the drawing walked on the hard spikes on its back. The soft tentacles under its belly floated in the air as decorations. It looked like a wire brush on stilts. Morris named it hallucigenia, meaning hallucination. This drawing was printed in countless textbooks and exhibited in major museums worldwide for 27 years. Everyone thought this was the truth, but no one knew that he had drawn the entire animal upside down. The real turning point happened on the other side of the planet. In the 1980s, the Maotianshan shales in Zhenjiang, Yunnan, China, yielded a large number of exceptionally well-preserved Cambrian fossils. A team led by Chinese paleontologist Huxian Wang, while cleaning these fossils, discovered a subversive truth. Those long spikes Morris had mistaken for legs are defensive weapons on its back. Those soft tentacles, once thought to be decorations, are actually the legs used for walking. Each leg even ends with a set of claws. Hallucigenia is not a steel brush walking on spikes, but a caterpillar crawling on soft legs, with a back full of sharp spines. The world suddenly fell silent. The upside-down problem was solved, but a new mystery immediately emerged. Where is its head? Both ends of the fossil were just dark, blurry blobs. No eyes, no mouth, none of the features a head should have. Scientists stared at one of those blobs for decades and collectively agreed that must be the head. So, the world's top paleontologists held seminars on this blob, built models, published papers, discussed its brain structure, and speculated on its feeding habits. Until 2015, Martin Smith's team at Cambridge University rescanned the fossil using an electron microscope and discovered the breathtaking truth. That head study for nearly 40 years wasn't a head at all. It was the decaying internal organs squeezed out of the hallucigenia's anus by geological pressure after it died. Imagine this scene. A group of the smartest people on Earth spent 40 years seriously discussing the nervous system of 500 million-year-old excrement. This isn't a joke. It's a real event in academic history. The real head was at the other end, long and thin like a noodle. On it was a pair of simple eyes that could only perceive light and dark. In the vast, blind Cambrian ocean 500 million years ago, it could already see the world. Even if its vision was only 0.1, a one-eyed man is king among the blind. But what truly made scientists gasp was its mouth arranged in a ring, densely packed with tiny needle-like teeth that rotated like gears. Anything sucked inside could only go in, never out. Research also found that these teeth were composed of multiple minerals, with a hardness exceeding even modern shark teeth. With a 1 centimeter body and a mouth like that, it was a living meat grinder 500 million years ago, specifically designed to crush the hard shells of plankton. The hunting process took less than a second, clean, swift, and leaving no room for resistance. Those 14 hard spines on its back were the fundamental reason it survived the eat or be eaten Cambrian period. In the oceans at that time, there were 2-meter-long anomalocaries and 5-eyed opabinia floating around. All sorts of top predators ruled the waters, while the hallucigenia was only 1 centimeter long. By all logic, it should have been eaten into extinction. Yet it survived for over 20 million years. Those spines were hollow, and as hard as steel pipes. Any predator wanting to swallow it had to first consider if its throat could handle it. It was like a meatball covered in toothpicks. It looked tempting, but who dared to bite? Even more impressive were its legs. Each leg was filled with body fluid, controlling extension and contraction by adjusting pressure. The principle is exactly the same as a hydraulic device. It was using hydraulic technology 500 million years ago. Furthermore, each leg was like an onion, with 2 to 3 layers of cuticles. New claws grew inside the old ones, replaced through molting. What happened to the old claws? They were discarded, of course. Did you think they'd be sold on a second-hand platform? It had a backup system designed 500 million years ago. If any part was damaged, a replacement was always ready. But the most shocking thing about Hallucigenia isn't how weird it is, but its position on the tree of life. In 2014, while studying its unique claw structure, scientists found that this layered molting replacement structure exists in only one modern creature on Earth, the velvet worm in tropical rainforests. This means those slime-shooting predators in the rainforest are the direct descendants of Hallucigenia 500 million years later. And velvet worms are close relatives of arthropods. When you pull this thread, the whole truth explodes. Hallucigenia belongs to the Lobopodia, and Lobopodia are the ancestors of arthropods. In other words, over 80% of animal species on Earth today, all insects, spiders, crabs, and lobsters, can all be traced back to this head-to-tail confused, upside-down little monster. The crab on your plate is its distant relative. The butterflies in the sky, the spiders on their webs, the ants building complex kingdoms. All are descendants left by this little monster from 500 million years ago. Hallucigenia makes me think of something. It lived for over 20 million years in the Cambrian, but left no meaning behind. No language, no civilization. No one knows what it experienced. Yet, this head-to-tail confused little monster, unintelligible to researchers for 40 years, became the common starting point for 80% of species on Earth. This makes me realize that the meaning of some things isn't visible while you're living them. Every step you take now might only reveal where it leads many years later. So, don't stop just because you can't see the direction clearly for now. Hallucigenia didn't stop, and that's why we exist today. And we, too, must keep moving forward. Don't look back.